นะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะพุทธังธัมมังสังฆังคุณุตรังอุปชฌายังนัมมัสสามิ This evening I like to offer something for you to reflect upon on the themes of our retreat. We focus on desirelessness, and as you listened to Dhamma talk last night, that in the teachings of the Buddha, Dhammacakkappawattana Sutta, in the first discourse, focus on the key teaching of Buddhist teaching, which is focused on suffering and the cause of suffering, the cause of dukkha. And we know that tanha is the root cause of all dukkha. So the ideas of learning about tanha should lead us to get some more understanding of it, and eventually, the more we understand about the tanha, we can find a way out of it. Because in Buddhism, wisdom is a tool, is a way that we can lead ourselves out of all kinds of suffering. But when we try to understand the suffering, which is true, but there's a condition that for the mind to be ready, to be able to investigate dukkha or suffering, is that the mind has to be happy. So it might seem to be some kind of contradiction here, that in Buddhist teaching we focus quite a lot about suffering, explain in great details of how what is suffering in human life, and actually this is the origins of Buddhism. But some people might think that Buddhism is pessimistic, focus on a lot of negative sides of life, and why we have to focus on this so much, since our life is not happy already. Why talking about it so much? The argument here is that in Buddhist teaching, we focus about life as it is. We want to understand the nature of this life that we want to understand. But like I said, the condition is that the mind will have to be ready. The mind will have to be happy. So actually, when we put it into practice, the idea of coming to retreat like this, believe it or not, the aim is to help the mind to be happy, or develop a happy mind. It seems to be in contradiction in the way that in the afternoon, some of you talking about when we meditate, we deal a lot about boredom or agitation, restlessness, a lot of things that we have to deal with nibbana during our meditation. Why I'm saying that this is a way to develop a happy mind. Because that once you get over all this nibbana, the mind will be happy. So we come to this retreat, or come to the practice in Buddhist teaching to develop this a happy mind, to develop a happy mind. In meditation, we learn to understand how nibbon occur into our mind and how we can deal with it, and how we can let go of all this nibbon. And finally, once the mind get over all this nibbon, the mind will be happy. And when the mind become happy, the mind will be ready to investigate suffering. This is very important because at some time people think that when we want to understand suffering, we can just focus on suffering, try to reflect upon it, contemplate on it right away. You may get some benefit from it, but once the mind is not ready, there's a tendency for the unhappy mind to get caught with suffering. Imagine that you are suffering from some problem, losing someone you love, and you want to contemplate on the nature of life. When we reflect on the chanting that this is the nature of life, you have to accept this is the reality of life. Most of us will see that this is not easy to do, right? Because at that time the mind is not ready. So in some way in Thai culture and tradition, when we have to deal with that kind of intense suffering like that, losing someone you love, instead of encouraging right away for you to put it into practice, contemplation, investigation, we make merit, we tambun, or we go to see the monk, the Ajahn that we have great respect. At least we bring our mind out of that kind of strong sadness. It will take some time for the mind to be ready to process it, and then you can contemplate it in your meditation later on. And on this retreat, we also focus on chanta, the wholesome desire. I talk a little bit in the afternoon about how chanta can create happiness in the mind, bring joy into the mind. So this is one of the elements of the practice that we can take into consideration for your practice, especially when your mind is restless. This is something that has helped me quite a lot. I remember when I was a young monk, I have very little experiences in meditation before I ordained as a monk. I could say that almost zero. So you can guess that the first month of being a monk is awful in terms of restlessness. I never experienced this before in my life. And actually, the reason that I keep going because that my meditation was terrible, so that I couldn't stand with it. My mind at the time thinking that if I let it be like this, my life will be like this for all my life. It will be like it all my life. I don't like it to be like this, so I like to give it more time. At the beginning, I just thinking about another month or another 2 months, so you can do 3 months of ordination. Thinking that if nothing getting better, I would disrobe at the time. And I was lucky that things seemed to be improved on the end of first month. and then second month seemed to be better. But as I told you before about my question with Ajahn Jiew about his meditation, it's very funny looking back at the time because I have a very little knowledge about the etiquette or how the monk should behave, the way that we can address senior monk at the time. So out of curiosity, I just asked the Ajahn right away that how is it your meditation? Because at that time I didn't know. Actually, this is something that you shouldn't do with the senior monk because it's too direct according to the Thai culture. You have the way that you can ask him indirectly. But I was lucky at the time that Ajahn Jiew didn't seem to see that I was rude at the time. He probably see that I really want to understand, and he is very kind to explain to me that his best meditation, สงบที่สุด at the time that he feel most peaceful, it was the time that he ordained as a in white, as a พระขาว 18 years ago, at that time when he said to me. So I realized at that time that it's not only concentration, samadhi, that count. There must be something else. Why he can keep going for another 18 years and now even more. I can't remember.ท่านอาจารย์ must be in his 30 vasa or 40. 34, 35 now. And now Ajahn Jiew is living at Amaravati in England. You see, so it's not only peacefulness from meditation. It doesn't mean that you have to have the best meditation every day to keep going. It's very likely that you can have once in 10 years or 20 years. Or like Ajahn Jiew said that once in 18 years. But what keeps you going? There should be something more. I think that would be a reflection, something, in my case, reflecting that how my mind can be this restless. I don't believe that my mind at that time become restless because I practice the Dhamma. I think that it become restless because it's like this. Even before I ordain, even before I practice the Dhamma, it's like this. It's just because I didn't have time to really look closely on it. In research on study about the brain, neuroscience, yes. I think actually Ajahn is more familiar with this than me. In the research, I happen to have someone from the University of Edinburgh come from Kun Ying Noi many years ago to visit me. So I'm curious about this and asked him that because they said that normally on the daily basis, do you know that on the average, how many thoughts occur within your mind, in your brain, I would say, because this science study about brain. So how many thoughts occur during the day? I believe they count the time that you get into your sleep too, because you dream. So I asked them how they can know that. They said that they use the machine to detect the brain. When there's a brain wave, they count it as one thought. They have the way, so they can count it. On the average, people can have something like 20,000 thoughts to 40,000 thoughts. I think this is good news for a meditator. Because when you say, especially this afternoon, some of you said that I'm so restless, I don't like it at all. You meditate, let's say you meditate for 1 hour. When you meditate, you try and to put your effort, right? You try to focus on your breathing in, you're aware of your breath, breathing in, you're aware of your breath, breathing out, putto, and you get lost to some thought. And you realize that you get lost into your thought. Let's say you come back. You put your effort into it. Again, breathing in, putto. Even you're frustrated with it, but you keep doing it. So how many thoughts that would occur during that meditation for 1 hour? I don't think it will be more than 500. You agree with that? Will you be able to think about something in your meditation for 500 times? It's less than that. It means that it's a lot better in your normal daily life. Because on the average, I mean that if you are on the minimum 20,000 thoughts a day, so how many an hour? Say just cut out 4 hours, so 20 hours a day that you awake, and 20,000 thoughts, it would be 1,000, right? So if you are so restless, you got to the maximum of 500 thoughts during your meditation for 1 hour, you are even better than your daily life. You should be happy about it. But actually, I think that you can do a lot better than that. But you just, because you focus a lot on the result of it. I think especially when you are coming to the retreat for the first few days, it's better to focus on the process. Try to be happy with the process that you are working. I like the word work in progress. So you can always see your meditation in from this perspective. For me, my work is in progress after 28 years. So that doesn't mean that I can realize all the result of it. Coming back to the story I told you about my life as a young monk, at that time that my mind is so restless, and I don't like it at all. But somehow I can reflect upon it, and I think that if I don't do anything with it, I will be like this for all my life. That make me decide to continue to practice. I know right away at that time that there's something that I need to do with my mind. I cannot let my mind to be like that for all my life. And then for 1 month, it keep going to 2 months, another 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, and now 28 years. It keep going. I never have a kind of life vow or have a kind of committed myself that I'm going to be a monk for all my life. But I just keep going, keep doing whatever that I can do. One thing that helped me to continue, and I believe thatท่านอาจารย์ Amaravati probably share the same thing with me, that it's not only peacefulness in the meditation, but more on something that in Bali we call pramod, gladness in the mind. Some kinds of joy, knowing that we are doing some good thing, knowing that we are contribute something to others. And also there's a lot of things that can bring joy into the mind. I think that in my life as a Buddhist monk, it helped me a lot to practice the skill to find in more inner happiness that I didn't have it before when I was a lay person. I usually put it as a inner resources of happiness that can always go back to. I use it a lot in my meditation, because I told you that I think a lot, so my mind can be very restless. So one way that it can be help myself that when you develop the chanta, the desire to do things, the desire to put your effort, the desire to develop your skill in a good way, or even the desire to contribute something good for others. Giving a talk is also challenging for many monks, but if you put it in a way that you are contributing or sharing something to others, you not put yourself into the pressure, because that if you think that it's me giving a talk and wanting people to be impressed by my talk, that one you create a lot of suffering for yourself. But if you look at it in different perspective, that you are offering something from your own practice, from your own experiences, trying to share something, or in my way, I'm doing this duty out of my gratitude for my teacher. Because if I don't do this duty, even I don't really like to do it so much, but if I don't do this duty, my teacher will have to do it. Or the senior monk will have no time to rest. Or Ajahn Amaro will have to give a Dhamma talk every night. And then you see that how about his voice, you see. So thinking in this term, even I don't really like to put myself into this seat and then giving a talk is not something that I'm very happy to do, because I consider myself not very good at giving a talk. But then out of my gratitude toward Ajahn, not only Ajahn Amaro, but also Luang Por Cha, all the Ajahn that I have been so grateful with. So this is something very tiny indeed that I can offer back as a gift of my gratitude toward them. And in this sense, talking about this one is already bring joy and happiness into my mind, that I have this opportunity to do this, not for me, but out of my gratitude. So you see that there's a lot of things in the practice that can bring joy into the mind. The reason that I talk about this, because that this lead to the result that we all want to have, which is samadhi, or peacefulness in the mind. There's a group of 5 Dhamma that lead to concentration, stillness in the mind, or samadhi, that the Buddha mentioned several times. Is called Dhamma Samadhi 5, the group of 5 Dhamma that lead to samadhi. The first one start with Brahmocha. It was translated as joy, gladness in the mind. Ajahn Amaro just told me this afternoon that for him he prefer the translation of delight, delightness, delightedness. And I also think of another word, could be a sense of well-being in the mind. So these kinds of things, pramod, lead to piti. Very interesting. In Thai culture, in Thai language, we put in the opposite. We start with piti pramod. But actually in the practice, we start with pramod and then lead to piti, which translated as rapture. It more intense when joy, gladness in the mind, delight become intense. It come into this piti, rapture. Once the mind develop this rapture, the mind develop into passathi, which is relaxation, the relaxedness within the mind. หลวงพ่อสมเด็จ put it as สบายกายสบายใจความปลอดโปร่งโล่งใจ and then what will follow is that sukha, happiness. But I believe that this happiness is different from the normal definition of happiness that we familiar with. It has to be something that very profound, intense inner happiness, and it will be the happiness that not based on the idea of self. Once the mind develop this sukha, happiness, they will come into concentration, samadhi. So happiness and samadhi go very close in this sense. In many sutta or many teaching in Buddhism, samadhi and happiness can be linked to each other very closely. So again, we start with pramod, joy, gladness, delight, and lead to piti, rapture, and then passathi, relaxedness, relaxation within the mind, and then sukha, happiness, and finally samadhi, concentration, stillness in the mind. So if we aim for this concentration in the mind, this is another thing that we can put into consideration. Practice in the way that bring gladness to the mind to the level it can be developed into rapture, and then actually thing will go by itself, according to many people experiences in meditation. Once the mind become happy to one level, it will be like someone who not hungry anymore. When your stomach is full, you don't feel like to eat anything, right? It is the same way that when the mind is happy, there's no need to find something to think about. One of my observation in the meditation is that when the mind is restless, you see the tendency in the mind or the habit of the mind trying to find something, to think, to proliferate anything at all. So you don't have to be with the present moment. It is because that the mind lacks happiness at the time. You can observe that. So trying to find something to satisfy the mind. But once the mind already happy, then no need to find something outside on the external level to create happiness for the mind at all, because happiness is already here and now. So the mind can continue develop in its own way that lead to samadhi. So there's many things that you can put into practice that bring pramod, gladness, delight into your mind. Chanta is one thing. Because when you develop chanta in doing anything, especially in this retreat, the chanta in to meditate, to follow the teaching of the Buddha, this also bring gladness into the mind. imagine that if you are sitting here in your meditation, and then in your imagination, the Buddha himself come into this room. He come with his disciple that you, the well-known disciple that you're familiar with, Sariputta, พระสารีบุตร พระโมคคัลลา โมคคัลลานะ พระอานันต์ พระอานนท์ also come with him. Coming with him also all the senior monk, all the Ajahn, you have great respect. หลวงพ่อชา also come with the group, and they sit in front of you when you meditate in this room. You think that they will criticize you, appreciate your effort of doing this. We just say that all that you are doing here is a good thing, or they will say that no, you shouldn't do this. They will encourage you to do more, or support you to do more, or discourage you for doing this. You can see it for yourself, right? For sure, all this great teacher will encourage us. Will see, will point to us that we are doing good thing. We are doing the thing that lead us to the end of suffering. I was very impressed, and this is also bring joy into my mind. When I listened to one of the Luang Por Sumay talk, it was on his celebration of his 80th birthday at Amaravati. And you know, when the monk get to his 80th having celebration, what they do with him, we invite him for a talk. For celebration of his birthday. Offer us so out of kindness he offers us his teaching again on his celebration of 80th birthday. But I was so impressed by that. I'm not sure Ajahn had listened to Luang Por so often, but this one I was so impressed by that. Luang Por said something like that, like this, that that if he has a magic wand, you think about Harry Potter, a magic wand that he can, what's the word for it, control, or you control. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, magic wand. No. And then he put in a click like this, and then all of the suffering of the listener, all of your suffering disappear. If he can do that, and if he had that one, he will do it. But since he can't do it, so what he can offer us is a guideline, a teaching that we can do for ourselves. I was so touched by that, because I believe that this is come from his heart. This is the heart of all our teachers. They want us to be free from our suffering. But it's just that they cannot do it for us. It's in the same way that many of you are parents. You have great metta for your children. When your children is in suffering, you want them to be free from suffering. But can you do anything with it? A lot of suffering occur in the mind, and it will be their duty to do their own job. What you can do is that to offer some guideline or skill that they can do. So I was so impressed by this simple teaching by Luang Por Sumay. I probably cannot remember other thing he said on that day, but this stay in my mind. That yes, as our job, we have to do it ourselves. Even we have great admiration for our teacher. We have our gratitude. The more we have our gratitude toward our teacher, the more we have to put our effort into our practice. Because that our teacher give us a clear example of human being that can free themselves from suffering. Refer to this theme, the theme of this retreat. Our great teacher, our beloved teacher, they believe that all of us has this capacity uh, to freedom from tanha. We can let go of tanha that lead us to true happiness. So since we all have this capacity, human capacity, that we can develop ourselves to free ourselves from tanha, the root cause of suffering. So this is our job, that we can try to put our effort into it, doing it. And again, learn to be kind to yourself. Sometimes you are can be too hard to yourself. Even coming to practice, you try so hard, blaming yourself, criticize yourself that you are not good enough. Learn to be kind to yourself. Do your best at a time. When you meditate each time, just thinking that this is a new thing. You start again and again. The more you do, I'm sure there's some skill that has been developed. So this is all that I like to offer you this evening for your reflection.